I never believed in ghosts, not until my 7-year-old grandson looked me in the eyes and described in perfect detail a conversation he'd had with my husband on a flight 30,000 feet in the air. The problem. My husband Robert had been dead for 5 years. The seat Tommy described was empty according to the manifest. And what my grandson told me that day would shatter everything I thought I knew about love, loss, and the thin veil between this world and the next. The phone rang at 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday in October. I remember the exact time because I was watching the clock, counting down the minutes until I could reasonably take my sleeping pill and escape into dreams where Robert was still alive. "Mom?" David's voice sounded strange, tight, controlled in that way he'd perfected since his father died, like he was always piloting a plane through turbulence, never allowing himself to feel the fear. "David, is everything all right? Did you land safely? My son flew the red-eye from Seattle to Boston twice a week. I was worried, though I never told him so." "We landed fine." "Mom, I need to talk to you about something. About Tommy." My heart seized. As he heard was Jennifer. "What happened?" "He's fine. Physically, he's fine. But Mom," David paused, and in that silence, I heard something I hadn't heard from my son in 5 years. Uncertainty, fear even. "He says he talked to Dad on the plane." I sat down heavily on the edge of my bed. Robert's side, still Robert's side, even after all this time. "What do you mean he talked to his dad? You were flying the plane." "No, Mom. He says he talked to Dad, to Robert, to his grandfather." The room tilted. I pressed my palm against the mattress to steady myself. "David, that's impossible. I know that. But Tommy, that." Another pause. I could picture my son running his hand through his hair, the gesture so like his father it hurt. "He knows things, Mom. Things he shouldn't know. Things I never told him. Things Jennifer never told him." "What kind of things?" "He knows about Dad's old nickname for you. The one nobody else used." My breath caught. "Songbird?" "Yeah, Songbird. How would he know that?" "Mom, how would a 7-year-old who never met his grandfather know that Robert called you Songbird because you used to hum while you cooked?" I couldn't answer. My throat had closed up with something between grief and impossible hope. "There's more," David continued. He described Dad perfectly. The scar on his left hand from the fishing accident. The way he'd tap his wedding ring twice before takeoff for luck. Mom, I never told Tommy any of those things. I barely remember them myself. "Where is Tommy now?" I managed to ask. "Asleep at Jennifer's parents' house." He was so excited about the conversation that he couldn't stop talking about it. Kept saying that Grandpa Robert was nice, that he had kind eyes, that he told him to tell me and you that he's always watching our flights. I stood up and walked to my dresser, where Robert's photo still sat in its silver frame. He smiled out at me. Forever 49, forever frozen in that moment before his heart gave out in the middle of a Tuesday afternoon while he was mowing the lawn. "What seat was he in?" I asked. "What seat did Tommy say this man was in?" I heard papers rustling. "He said 12th window seat, emergency exit row." "But Mom, I checked the manifest 3 times. That seat was empty. Nobody was assigned to it." "Nobody?" The number hit me like a physical blow. I sank back onto the bed, Robert's photo clutched in my shaking hands. "David," I whispered, 12F was your father's lucky seat. He requested it on every single flight he ever took. He said the emergency exit row had more legroom, but really he was superstitious about it. He thought that seat kept him safe." The silence on the other end of the line stretched so long I thought we'd been disconnected. "David, I'm here." His voice cracked. "Mom, I think you need to talk to Tommy yourself. Tomorrow, can you come to Boston? Can you take the train up?" "I'll be on the first one out," I said. "I'll be there by noon." After we hung up, I sat in the darkness of my bedroom, holding Robert's photo and trying to make sense of the impossible. My practical mind said it was a coincidence, a child's overactive imagination, a series of lucky guesses somehow cobbled together into a compelling story. But my heart, my grieving, still, broken heart that had never quite learned how to beat properly without Robert beside me, my heart whispered something different. My heart said, "What if?" I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, and for the first time in 5 years I talked to Robert out loud. "Was that you?" I asked the empty room. "Did you really show yourself to our grandson? And if you did, why? Why now? Why Tommy?" The house was silent except for the old furnace clicking on, the familiar sounds of a home I'd shared with Robert for 30 years. No ghostly voices answered me. No supernatural signs appeared. But as dawn broke and I rose to pack my bag for Boston, I found myself humming an old song Robert used to sing while he shaved. a song I hadn't thought of in years. And I could have sworn, though I told myself it was just the morning light playing tricks, I could have sworn I saw the photo of Robert on my dresser tilt slightly, as if he were nodding. As if he were saying, "Come find out, songbird, come find out." The train ride to Boston felt like it took a lifetime. I sat by the window, watching the autumn landscape blur past, my mind spinning with questions that had no rational answers. I'd packed Robert's old watch in my purse. I don't know why. Maybe I thought Tommy would recognize it. Maybe I just needed something of Robert's close to me, some tangible proof that he'd once been real, that our life together hadn't been a dream I was still trying to wake from. Jennifer picked me up at South Station. My daughter-in-law looked exhausted, her usual neat ponytail coming loose, dark circles under her eyes. "Sarah, thank God you're here," she said, pulling me into a tight hug. "I don't know what to do. Tommy won't stop talking about it. He's drawn pictures. He keeps asking when he can see Grandpa Robert again. Where is he now?" "At our house with David. They're waiting for you." Jennifer pulled back, studying my face. "Sarah, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me." "Of course. Have you been showing Tommy pictures of Robert? Videos? Telling him stories about specific things Robert did?" I shook my head. "I haven't seen Tommy in person since July, and we only video chat once a week. I tell him stories about his grandfather, yes, but general things. That he was kind. That he loved flying. That he would have loved being a grandfather. Nothing specific. Nothing about nicknames or scars or habits. No. Why?" Jennifer started walking toward the parking garage and I followed. "Because Tommy knows things no one told him. David's been going through old family videos all night, trying to find some explanation. Trying to find a moment where maybe Tommy overheard something, saw something. But Sarah," she stopped and turned to face me. "There's nothing. We've been so careful not to dwell on Robert's death around Tommy. We thought it would be too sad for a child." We got into her car, and as she pulled out into Boston traffic, I asked the question that had been burning in my mind since David's call. "Do you believe him? Do you believe Tommy really saw something?" Jennifer's hands tightened on the steering wheel. "I'm a nurse. I deal in facts and things I can measure and prove. But Sarah, I was sitting 3 rows behind Tommy on that flight. I was reading a magazine. And at one point, I looked up and saw my son talking animatedly to the window seat next to him. I thought he was playing pretend, talking to an imaginary friend. But Sarah," her voice dropped to barely a whisper, "when I looked at that empty seat, just for a second, just for the briefest moment, I could have sworn I saw a shadow, the shape of a man." My skin prickled with goosebumps. I told myself it was the light, the clouds outside the window, exhaustion from the early morning flight. But then Tommy turned to me with this huge smile and said, "Mommy, Grandpa Robert says hello." And Sarah, the way he said it, he wasn't pretending, he believed it completely. 20 minutes later, we pulled up to David and Jennifer's house in Brookline. It was a neat colonial with a small front yard where a plastic soccer ball sat abandoned in the grass. My son's car was in the driveway. Before we even reached the front door, it flew open, and Tommy came barreling out. "Grandma Sarah!" He crashed into my legs, wrapping his small arms around me. "Grandma, I have so much to tell you. I met Grandpa Robert. He's really nice and he told me things, and he said to tell you something special." I bent down, my knees cracking, and gathered my grandson into my arms properly. He smelled like maple syrup and children's shampoo. His dark eyes, so like David's, so like Robert's, were bright with excitement. "Hey there, sweetheart. Why don't we go inside and you can tell me all about it?" David met us at the door. My son looked like he'd aged 5 years overnight. There were lines around his eyes I'd never noticed before, and his pilot's uniform was rumpled as if he'd slept in it. "Mom," he pulled me into a brief, tight hug. "Thank you for coming." We settled in the living room. Jennifer made coffee. Tommy bounced on the couch beside me, and David sat across from us in his father's old reading chair. The sight of my son in that chair, the one Robert had given them when he and I downsized after David moved out, nearly undid me. "Okay, Tommy," I said gently, taking his small hand in mine. "Tell Grandma everything. Start from the beginning." Tommy took a deep breath, his face serious in that way children get when they're trying to tell something important. "It was on the plane. Daddy was flying it, and Mommy was reading her magazine. I was looking out the window at the clouds, and they looked like dragons. And then I heard someone say, I always thought they looked like ships. And I turned and there was a man sitting next to me." "What did he look like?" I asked, keeping my voice steady. He was old like you, Grandma. Not super old, but old. He had gray hair and glasses and a really nice smile. And he had a scar right here. Tommy traced a line across his left palm, like a fishing hook got him. My breath caught. Robert's scar from a fishing trip in 1998 when Tommy wasn't even born. When David was still in high school. What else? I managed to ask. He was wearing a blue shirt and he had a watch like this. Tommy made a circle with his fingers, with numbers that glow. And Grandma, he knew my name! He said, "You must be Tommy. I've been waiting to meet you." David leaned forward. "What did you talk about, buddy? What did he say?" Tommy's face lit up. "He said lots of things. He said Daddy is a really good pilot, even better than he was. He said Mommy is brave for letting Daddy fly. And he said Grandma Sarah." Tommy turned to me with those earnest dark eyes. "He said to tell you that he still thinks about the kitchen. He said you'd know what that means." The room spun. I gripped the arm of the couch, the kitchen, our first apartment's tiny kitchen where Robert proposed to me on a Tuesday morning in 1982. No ring, no plan, just him standing by the stove saying, "Sarah, I want to make breakfast with you for the rest of my life. Will you marry me?" "What else did he tell you, sweetheart?" My voice came out as barely a whisper. "He said he watches Daddy's flights, every single one. He said he's in seat 12F every time Daddy flies, even though nobody can see him. He said it's his job to make sure his family gets home safe." Tommy paused, his small face scrunching up in concentration. "Oh! And he said to tell you something really important, Grandma. He said there's a box, a blue box in the attic. He said you need to find it and open it, and everything will make sense." I looked at David, he looked at Jennifer. None of us spoke. "What kind of box?" David finally asked. Tommy shrugged. "Just a blue box. He said it's behind the Christmas decorations in Grandma's attic. He said he left it there a long time ago, and he was waiting for the right time for you to find it. He said now is the right time." My mind raced through memories of my attic. Boxes and boxes of Christmas decorations, yes, old furniture, photo albums, but a blue box. I couldn't remember anything specific. "Is there anything else, Tommy?" Jennifer asked softly. "Anything else?" Grandpa Robert said. Tommy nodded vigorously. "He said he's not sad. He said being dead isn't scary. He said it's like flying, but you never have to land. And he said—" Tommy's voice got quieter, and for the first time, his excitement dimmed into something more solemn. "He said he's sorry he had to leave so soon. He said he wanted to meet me and see Daddy become a pilot and dance with Grandma at my wedding someday. But he said some things we don't get to choose." Tears were streaming down my face now, and I didn't bother to wipe them away. "He also said one more thing," Tommy added, his small hand squeezing mine. "He said to tell you that you were the best part of his life, Grandma. He said you're still his songbird, and even though you can't hear him, he still listens to you sing." The sob that came out of me was something between grief and relief, between loss and impossible joy. Jennifer moved to sit beside me, her arm around my shoulders. David stood abruptly and walked to the window, his back to us, his shoulders shaking. Tommy looked worried. "Did I say something wrong?" "No, baby," I managed to say through my tears. "You said everything exactly right." I pulled my grandson close and held him tight. This small boy who'd somehow become a bridge between the living and the dead, between grief and healing, between the father I'd lost and the family he'd left behind. And in that moment, holding Tommy while my son cried silently by the window and my daughter-in-law rubbed my back, I knew with absolute certainty that whatever had happened on that plane, whether it was truly Robert or some inexplicable miracle, it was real enough to change everything. "Tommy," I said, pulling back to look at his face, "how did you know it was Grandpa Robert? Did he tell you his name?" Tommy shook his head. "No. But when he smiled at me, Grandma, I just knew. It was like—" He struggled to find the words. "It was like when you meet someone and you feel like you've known them forever. Like their family, like their home." Yes, I thought. That was exactly what Robert had always been, home. We drove back to my house in Salem that same afternoon, all four of us. David called in sick for his next flight rotation, something I'd never known him to do in his entire career. Jennifer packed Tommy's overnight bag without question. The pull of that blue box, of whatever answers it might hold, was too strong to resist. During the hour-long drive, Tommy fell asleep in his car seat, exhausted from retelling his story 3 more times. David drove in silence, his hands at perfect 10 and 2 on the wheel. Jennifer sat beside him, occasionally reaching over to squeeze his arm. I sat in the back next to Tommy, watching the trees flash by and trying to remember. A blue box. behind the Christmas decorations. Had Robert hidden something from me? And if so, why? And how could Tommy possibly know about it? When we pulled into my driveway, the house looked exactly as it always did. A small Cape Cod-style home with white siding and black shutters, the front garden still holding on to the last of the autumn mums. Robert and I had bought it in 1989 when David was just 5 years old. We'd planned to grow old here together. He'd kept his part of the bargain. I was the one left growing old alone. "The attic access is in the hallway," I said as we filed inside. "But let me make sandwiches first. You all must be hungry." "Mom," David's voice was firm, "the sandwiches can wait." "Where's the attic ladder?" I showed him, and he pulled down the folding stairs. Dust motes danced in the shaft of afternoon light that spilled down from above. David climbed up first, then helped me up. Jennifer stayed downstairs with Tommy, who had woken up and was now coloring at my kitchen table. The attic was exactly as I remembered it, cramped, hot even in October, packed with the accumulation of 30 years of marriage. Boxes labeled in my handwriting. Christmas ornaments, David's school papers, photos 1985-1990. Where did Tommy say it would be? David asked, clicking on his phone's flashlight. Behind the Christmas decorations. We moved boxes carefully, both of us sweating in the stuffy air. I'd been up here a dozen times since Robert died, retrieving Christmas decorations, looking for old photos, storing away clothes I couldn't bear to donate. I'd never seen a blue box. "Mom, look at this." David was crouched in the far corner, behind 3 large plastic bins of Christmas decorations. He'd pushed them aside, and there, wedged between the attic wall and an old trunk, was a blue metal box. The kind you might use for important documents or valuables. It was dusty, clearly untouched for years. My heart hammered in my chest as David pulled it out. It wasn't large, maybe the size of a shoebox, but it was heavy. There was a small combination lock on the front. "Did Dad ever mention this?" David asked. I shook my head. "Never. I had no idea it existed." "Do you know what the combination might be?" I thought for a moment, then said, "Try our anniversary, 0715 July 15th. David tried it. The lock didn't budge. "Your birthday." He suggested we tried my birthday, his birthday, even Robert's birthday. Nothing worked. "Wait," I said suddenly. "Try 1206, December 6th. What's December 6th? The day we met. At a Christmas party in 1981. Robert always said that was the real anniversary we should celebrate." David carefully turned the dial. 1206. The lock clicked open. We stared at each other for a long moment, neither of us quite ready to open it. Finally, David lifted the lid. Inside were envelopes, maybe 20 of them, each one labeled in Robert's familiar handwriting. My eyes scanned the labels and my breath stopped. "To Sarah, open on your 60th birthday. To Sarah, open on your 65th birthday. To Sarah, open when you're ready to love again. To David, open when you become a father. To David, open when you need to remember why I loved flying. To my future grandchildren, to whoever finds this box." There were more. Each one a message from beyond the grave, each one a piece of Robert reaching forward through time. "When did he do this?" David whispered, his voice thick. "When did he write all these?" I pulled out the envelope labeled, "To whoever finds this box," with shaking hands. "This one first. He must have meant for us to read this one first." David nodded. Together, we opened it. The letter inside was dated March 15, 2019, 3 months before Robert died. "My dearest Sarah and David, if you're reading this, it means I'm gone. It also means that somehow, some way, you found this box. I'm going to trust that you found it when you were meant to find it, not before. I'm writing this on a Tuesday afternoon. Sarah is downstairs humming while she makes dinner chicken parmesan. I can smell it from here. David just called to tell us that Jennifer is pregnant. We're going to be grandparents." I wish I could put into words the joy I felt hearing that news. But here's the thing. I've been having chest pains for 2 months now. I haven't told Sarah. I know I should. I know that keeping this from her is wrong. But every time I think about telling her, I imagine the worry in her eyes, the fear that would replace her smile, and I can't do it. Not yet. I have a doctor's appointment next week. I'll tell her after that, once I know what we're dealing with. But just in case things don't go the way I hope, I wanted to leave something behind. Not just for Sarah, but for David and for this grandchild I may never meet. These letters are my way of staying connected to the people I love most, even after I'm gone. I've written them over the past month, late at night when Sarah's asleep. Each one is for a specific moment, a specific milestone. I may be here for all of them. God, I hope I'm here for all of them. But if I'm not, I want my family to know that I thought about these moments. that I imagined them, that even death can't stop me from being part of them. The combination to this box is the day I met Sarah, the day my real life began. David, you know your mother never remembers this date. She always thinks our anniversary is the only one that matters, but I remember it like it was yesterday. Red dress. Silver earrings. That laugh that made me believe in love at first sight. I've hidden this box behind the Christmas decorations because I know Sarah. She'll go through everything else in this attic eventually. My clothes, my tools, my books. But she'll keep the Christmas decorations untouched for years because those boxes hold our traditions, our memories. She won't be able to face changing anything about Christmas without me. So I know these letters will wait until the right time. How will you know when it's the right time? I don't know. Maybe you won't find this for decades. Maybe you'll stumble across it tomorrow. But I have to believe, that timing isn't random, that there's a plan bigger than us. That when you need these letters most, somehow you'll find them. David, take care of your mother. I know she'll tell you she's fine. She'll smile and say she doesn't need anything. Don't believe her. She needs you more than she'll ever admit. And she needs to know that it's okay to move forward, to be happy again, to sing again. Sarah, my songbird, if you're reading this, I need you to know something. The best years of my life were the ones I spent making breakfast with you, flying home to you, falling asleep next to you. Every single day with you was a gift I never deserved. You gave me a son, a home, a reason to be a better man. And now you're going to be a grandmother, and I'm so sorry I might not be there to see it. But I'll be watching. I don't know how this whole death thing works, but I believe in something beyond this life. I have to, because the thought of never seeing you again, never hearing you hum while you cook, never holding your hand, that's not an ending I can accept. So I'll be there in whatever way I can be. In the sunrise you love, in the garden you tend, in David's laugh and his child's smile, in every flight that lands safely, every door that opens at just the right time, every moment of unexpected joy. Find me there, Sarah. Find me in the life you keep living. The other letters in this box are for specific times. You'll know which ones to open when. Trust your instincts. Trust that I planned this with love. And David, there's one letter in here specifically for you to open now, whenever, it's labeled differently than the others. You'll see it. I love you both more than words can say. Thank you for being my family. Thank you for making my life mean something. Until we meet again. Robert. P.S. Sarah, you were right about the chest pains. I should have told you. I'm sorry. I don't remember starting to cry, but suddenly I was sobbing so hard I couldn't breathe. And David was holding me, both of us crouched in that dusty attic, clutching a letter from a dead man who loved us so much he'd tried to reach across death itself to tell us so. He knew. I choked out between sobs. He knew he was dying and he didn't tell me. We could have. Mom. David's voice was rough with his own tears. He was trying to protect you. That's what he always did. We sat there for a long time, passing the letter back and forth, rereading it, trying to absorb the magnitude of what we'd found. Robert had written to us from the past, had planned for a future he wouldn't be part of, had found a way to be present in his absence. Finally, David reached back into the box and pulled out another envelope. This one was labeled, "To David, open when you find this box. Meh." And I nodded. He opened it, and we read it together. Son, if you're reading this, something impossible just happened. Let me explain. I'm writing this letter different from all the others because this one comes with a promise I'm not even sure I can keep. But I'm going to try. You see, I've thought a lot about what happens after death. I've read books, talked to priests, even had long conversations with your mother about it, though she doesn't know how seriously I was thinking about it. And I've come to believe that love is stronger than death, that the bonds we form in life don't just evaporate when our hearts stop beating. Here's my promise, son. I'm going to find a way to let you know I'm still here, still watching, still proud of you. I don't know how or when, but I'm going to send you a sign. And when you get it, you'll find this box. Maybe it'll be something small. Maybe it'll be something that makes you question reality itself. But you'll know it's from me because it'll be impossible to explain any other way. When that happens, when you get your sign, come looking for these letters. They're my way of continuing to be your father even after I'm gone. Now, about the important stuff. You're going to be a father yourself soon. I found out today, and David, I'm so damn proud of you I could burst. You and Jennifer are going to be wonderful parents. You're going to worry constantly. That's what parents do. You're going to wonder if you're doing it right. You're going to have moments where you feel inadequate, scared, overwhelmed. Let me tell you a secret, I felt that way every single day of raising you. Every day I wondered if I was enough, if I was teaching you the right things, if I was preparing you for a world I couldn't predict. But here's what I learned: being a good father isn't about being perfect. It's about showing up. It's about loving your child so much that you'd do anything, to keep them safe and happy. It's about passing on the values that matter: kindness, courage, honesty, and the ability to find wonder in ordinary moments. You learned all of that, son. I see it in how you love Jennifer, in how carefully you check every system before takeoff, in how you call your mother even when you're exhausted because you know she needs to hear your voice. You're already the father your child needs you to be. Now, here's the hard part. And I need you to hear this, really hear this. It's okay to grieve me. It's okay to be angry that I'm gone. It's okay to cry, to rage, to miss me so much it feels like you can't breathe. Don't do what I know you're doing. Don't shut down emotionally. Don't hide behind your pilot's calm. Don't protect everyone else at the expense of your own heart. Feel it, David. All of it. The pain means the love was real. But then, and this is important, let yourself heal. Let yourself laugh again without guilt. Let yourself be fully present for your child, for Jennifer, for your mother. Don't let grief turn you into a ghost haunting your own life. Your mother is going to need you in ways she's never needed you before. She's going to act strong, but she's breaking. Please, take care of her. Make sure she's eating. Make sure she's not spending all her time alone in this house, talking to my pictures. Make sure she knows it's okay to be happy again, and take care of yourself. Being a pilot means you're already comfortable in the sky, but make sure you stay connected to the ground. To the people who love you, to the messy, beautiful reality of being human. There are other letters in this box for your child, for my grandchild I may never meet. When the time is right, when your son or daughter is old enough to understand, give them the letter marked, "To my grandchild on their 10th birthday." It's full of all the things I wished I could tell them in person. I need to tell you something else, something I never said enough when I was alive. I'm proud of you. Not just because you became a pilot like me. Not just because you're successful or responsible or good. I'm proud of you because you're kind, because you love deeply, because you make the world better just by being in it. Being your father was the greatest privilege of my life. One last thing. In this box, there's a letter for your mother labeled, "Open when you're ready to love again." I need you to make sure she opens it when the time comes. Not too soon, let her grieve. But not too late either. She deserves happiness, David. She deserves to be someone's songbird again, even if it breaks my heart to say it. Promise me you'll take care of her. Promise me you'll let yourself be happy. Promise me you'll tell your child about their grandfather. Not the perfect version, but the real one. The one who burned toast and cried at movies and loved flying because it made him feel free. I'll be watching your flights, son. Every single one. Maybe you won't see me, but I'll be there, in seat 12F, making sure my boy gets home safe. I love you more than all the sky, Dad. P.S. The watch I always wore. The one with the luminous dial. It's in the box with my other things in the bedroom closet. I want you to have it. Wear it on your flights. Think of it as me flying with you. Tutu. David's hands shook as he finished reading. He folded the letter carefully, then pressed it against his chest like he was trying to absorb his father's words through his skin. "Hey, knew," David whispered. Somehow he knew that something would lead us here, that something impossible would happen. He looked at me with eyes full of wonder and grief. Tommy. Tommy was the sign. Dad said he'd send a sign, and he sent Tommy. I reached into the box with trembling hands and found the envelope labeled, "To my future grandchildren." It was thicker than the others, stuffed full. "Should we?" David started, but I was already opening it. Inside were 3 letters, each one marked with a different age. To my grandchild on their 7th birthday. To my grandchild on their 10th birthday. To my grandchild when they graduate high school. David, I breathed. He wrote to Tommy. He wrote to him at age 7. This letter. Tommy is 7 years old right now. We stared at each other in the dusty attic light, both of us understanding the impossible timing of it all. Robert had written a letter to be opened when his grandchild turned 7. Tommy had just turned 7 3 months ago. And now, somehow, Tommy had met Robert on a plane and led us to these letters. "We have to read it to him," David said. "Whatever's in that letter, Tommy needs to hear it. We climbed down from the attic, carefully carrying the blue box between us. Jennifer looked up from where she was sitting at the kitchen table with Tommy, her eyes questioning. "We found it," I said simply. Everything Tommy said was true. Tommy bounced up from his chair. "Did you find the blue box, did you? What was in it?" David knelt down to his son's level. "Letters, buddy. Your grandpa Robert left us letters. And there's one just for you." Tommy's eyes went wide. "For me? But he never met me." "He knew you were coming?" I said, sitting down at the table. My legs felt weak. "He knew, and he wanted to write to you anyway." Jennifer moved to stand behind David, her hand on his shoulder. We all gathered around as I carefully opened the envelope marked, "To my grandchild on their 7th birthday." The letter inside was written on pale blue stationery, Robert's handwriting as familiar to me as my own. "Hello, little one. I don't know if you're a boy or a girl. I don't know what you look like, what your name is, or what your favorite color might be. But I know this, I love you already." That probably sounds strange, doesn't it? How can someone love you when they've never met you? But love doesn't always need to meet its object to be real. I loved you the moment I found out you were coming. I loved you in the possibility of you. I loved you as an idea, a hope, a future I desperately wanted to be part of. I'm sorry I'm not there for your 7th birthday. 7 is such a wonderful age. You're old enough to read this letter yourself, or to understand it when someone reads it to you. You're old enough to have questions about who I am, who I was. Let me tell you a little about myself. I loved flying. Not just being a pilot, but the actual sensation of being in the air, of seeing the world from above where everything looks small and manageable. From up there, you can see how connected everything is, how borders and walls and divisions disappear, and we're all just people on one beautiful, fragile planet. I hope you get to fly someday. I hope you get to see what I saw, how sunrise looks from 30,000 feet, how clouds form castles and mountains and dragons, how sometimes, when you're up in the sky, you feel closer to whatever created all this beauty. I loved your grandmother with all my heart. She's probably reading this to you right now, and she's probably crying, "Sorry, Sarah, but you know it's true." She has the kindest heart of anyone I've ever known. When you need comfort, when you need wisdom, when you need someone to believe in you even when you don't believe in yourself, go to her. She carries enough love for the whole world. I loved your father, my son David, more than I knew how to express. He was always so careful, so responsible, so determined to make everyone proud. I hope he's learned to relax a little bit by now. David, if you're reading this, take a day off once in a while, for crying out loud. Your dad is strong and brave and good, and you're lucky to have him. Now, here's what I want to tell you, little one, on your 7th birthday you are loved. Not just by the family who's with you right now, but by me, reaching across time and death to tell you so. You are wanted. You are a miracle. Your life matters. Whatever you dream of doing, whatever you want to become, I believe in you. Be kind, be brave, be curious about the world, ask questions, take risks, fall down and get back up. Love people deeply, even though it means you might get hurt. The pain of loving is always worth it. And here's something important, don't be afraid of death. I know that sounds strange coming from someone who's dead, but I need you to hear it. Death isn't the end of love. It's not the end of connection. I'm not with you in body, but I'm with you in all the ways that matter. In the stories your family tells about me, in the values they pass down, in the genes you carry, in the love that doesn't stop just because a heart stops beating. If you're reading this letter, it means your family found the box. It means that somehow, in some way, I found a way to reach you. Maybe it was a dream or a feeling or something impossible that can't be explained. But you're here, reading my words, and that means miracles are real. Happy 7th birthday, sweetheart. I wish I could be there to celebrate with you. I wish I could see your face, hear your laugh, watch you blow out the candles on your cake. But even though I can't be there in person, know that I'm celebrating you from wherever I am. Know that I'm proud of you just for being exactly who you are. 7 is the age of wonder. Hold on to that. Don't let the world make you cynical or hard. Keep seeing dragons in the clouds. Keep believing in impossible things. Because you're one of my impossible things. I never got to meet you, but you changed my life anyway. The thought of you gave me hope during my last months. The idea that part of me would continue, that love would carry on, that my son would become a father, it made everything worthwhile. Thank you for being born. Thank you for being part of this family. Thank you for being my legacy and my hope. I love you, little one. Always and forever, your Grandpa Robert. P.S. There's another letter for you when you turn 10, and another for when you graduate high school. I tried to imagine what you might need to hear at those times. I hope I got it right, and if your family thinks you're ready to read those letters earlier, that's okay too. Trust them. They know you in ways I never could. P.P.S. Ask your dad to tell you about the time I tried to teach him to fly a kite, and we ended up stuck in a tree. It's a good story. It'll make you laugh. By the time I finished reading, all four of us were crying. Tommy had climbed into David's lap halfway through, and my son held him tightly, his face buried in his child's hair. He knew about me, Tommy whispered. Grandpa Robert knew about me before I was born. Yes, sweetheart, Jennifer said, wiping her eyes. He knew, and he loved you. Tommy looked up at me with those dark, serious eyes. Grandma Sarah. I wasn't pretending. On the plane, it was really him, wasn't it? I pulled both Tommy and David into my arms, the 3 generations of us wrapped together, connected by a love that had survived death itself. Yes, baby, I said, my voice breaking. It was really him. That night, we all stayed at my house. Jennifer made spaghetti from the ingredients in my pantry while David and I went through the rest of the blue box. Tommy sat at the kitchen table, drawing pictures. One of an airplane, one of a man in seat 12F, one of all of us together with an extra figure hovering above us, wings spread wide. There were 17 letters in total, each one carefully labeled, each one a message for a specific moment in our lives. I ran my fingers over the envelopes, reading the labels. To Sarah, open on your 60th birthday. I'd turned 62 last spring, 2 years after Robert died. To Sarah, open when you're ready to love again. To Sarah, open on our 50th anniversary. To David, open when you need to remember why I loved flying. To David, open when parenting gets hard. To my grandchild on their 10th birthday. To my grandchild when they graduate high school. To the whole family, open on Christmas, and others. So many others. Robert had tried to imagine every milestone, every moment of grief, every time we might need him. He tried to be present for a future he knew he wouldn't see. Mom, David said quietly. We were sitting on the couch, the box between us. Jennifer had taken Tommy upstairs to give him a bath. Did you know Dad was having chest pains? I shook my head. Not until it was too late. He collapsed in the yard on a Tuesday afternoon. The EMTs said it was massive cardiac arrest. He was gone before they even got him to the hospital. My voice caught. I kept thinking, if I'd known, if he'd told me, maybe we could have. Don't. David interrupted gently. I've spent 5 years doing that same calculation. If he'd gone to the doctor sooner, if we'd noticed the signs, if. It doesn't change anything, Mom. It just makes the grief heavier. We sat in silence for a moment. Then David reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone. I need to show you something. The flight manifest from the day Tommy saw Dad. He pulled up a document on his screen and handed it to me. It was the official passenger list from the flight 3 days ago. Look at the seat assignments, he said. I scanned down the list. Row 12 showed seats A through E filled with names. But 12, the window seat in the emergency exit row, was marked as unoccupied. Nobody booked it, David said. But here's the thing, Mom. Look at the seat assignment history. He swiped to another screen. This one showed the booking timeline for the flight. And there, in the notes section for seat 112F, was a single line that made my blood run cold. Sate held, standing reservation, R. Mitchell, pilot personnel family. What does that mean? I whispered. It means Dad had a standing reservation for that seat. On every flight I've ever piloted. David's voice was shaking. I didn't know about it. I never requested it. But it's been there, Mom. For 5 years. Since the month after Dad died, seat 112 has been automatically blocked on every single one of my flights. How is that possible? I don't know. I called the airline's IT department this morning. They said the reservation came from Dad's old employee account, the one he had when he worked as a pilot before he retired. But that account should have been deactivated when he died. It shouldn't have been possible for anyone to use it. We stared at each other. The house was quiet except for the sound of running water upstairs and Tommy's laughter as Jennifer played with him in the bath. There's more, David said. He pulled up another image on his phone. This is security footage from the airport, from the gate right before boarding. The grainy black and white video showed passengers lined up to board the plane. David zoomed in on a section of the screen. There in the line was Jennifer and Tommy. Tommy was holding his backpack and his stuffed dinosaur. And right behind him, I gasped, right behind him. For just 3 frames of video, there was a shadow. the vague shape of a man, tall, wearing what looked like a button-down shirt. The shadow appeared for less than a second, then vanished. "I've watched this 100 times," David said. "I've tried to convince myself it's a glitch, or someone walking past the camera, or a reflection. But Mom..." He rewound the footage and played it again in slow motion. "Look at his hand. The shadow's hand." I looked. In the briefest flash of one frame the shadow's left hand was visible, and on the palm there appeared to be a dark line. "A scar, David," I breathed. "What's happening? Is your father haunting us?" "I don't think it's haunting," David said slowly. "I think it's exactly what he promised in his letter. He said he'd send a sign. He said he'd find a way to let us know he's still here." He put his phone down and looked at me. "I think Dad found a way to keep his promise." Upstairs the bathwater stopped running. We heard Jennifer's voice reading a bedtime story, Tommy asking questions. "There's something else I need to show you," I said. I stood up and walked to the hallway closet, the one where I'd boxed up Robert's things 5 years ago. I'd meant to go through them, to donate his clothes to clear out the space. But I'd never been able to do it. The boxes sat untouched, a shrine to my inability to let go. I pulled out the box labeled, "Robert's Personal Items," and brought it back to the couch. Inside were his wallet, his reading glasses, his favorite tie, and his watch, the one with the luminous dial, the one he mentioned in the letter to David. I handed the watch to my son. David held it carefully, reverently. It was a simple pilot's watch, black face with white numbers and hands that glowed in the dark. The leather strap was worn from years of use. "He wore this on every flight," David said softly. "I remember being a kid and thinking it was magic, the way the numbers glowed." "He wanted you to have it," I said. "The letter said so." David fastened the watch around his wrist. It fit perfectly. He stared at it for a long moment, then pressed it to his chest, just over his heart. "I miss him so much, Mom," he whispered, and suddenly he wasn't a 43-year-old pilot anymore. He was my little boy, crying for his father. Every day I miss him. Every flight, every landing, every time something good happens. I want to call him and tell him about it. And then I remember he's gone, and it's like losing him all over again. I pulled my son close, and we cried together. 5 years of grief, 5 years of pretending to be strong, 5 years of carefully controlled emotions. All of it came pouring out in that small living room while Tommy laughed upstairs, innocent and unaware that he'd cracked open the dam that had been holding back our pain. After a while, David pulled away and wiped his eyes. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to." "Don't apologize," I said firmly. "Your father's letter was right. You need to feel this. We both do. We've been walking around like ghosts, David. Pretending we're fine. Pretending we've moved on. But we haven't, and that's okay." "How do you do it?" David asked. "How do you live in this house with all his things, all these memories, and not go crazy?" I looked around the living room, at Robert's reading chair, at the bookshelf he built, at the wedding photo on the mantel. I talked to him, I admitted. Every day. I know he can't hear me, but I tell him about my day, about the garden, about you and Jennifer and Tommy. It helps. It makes me feel less alone. Do you think he can hear you? After everything that's happened, Tommy seeing him, the letters, the seat reservation, do you think Dad is actually there, listening? I thought about it carefully. "I don't know," I said honestly, "but I want to believe it, and maybe that's enough. Maybe faith doesn't require proof. Maybe sometimes we just have to choose to believe in impossible things because the alternative is too lonely." David nodded slowly. He looked down at his father's watch on his wrist, at the glowing numbers in the dim light of the living room. "I have a flight in 3 days," he said. "Back to Seattle. I'm going to wear this watch, and I'm going to look at seat 112F, and if Dad's there, if his spirit or ghost or whatever it is, I'm going to say thank you. Thank you for Tommy. Thank you for the letters. Thank you for finding a way to keep your promise. He was so proud of you," I said. "The letter made that clear. He was proud of the man you became, the father you are. I want Tommy to know him," David said suddenly, urgently. "Not just through stories and letters, but really know him. The real him, faults and all. Dad's letter said to tell Tommy about the kite in the tree. I want to tell him every story I can remember. I want to make sure that even though Dad's gone, Tommy grows up feeling connected to him. We'll do it together," I promised. "We'll make sure Robert stays alive in the stories we tell." Jennifer came downstairs then, Tommy in his pajamas and rubbing his sleepy eyes. "Someone wants to say goodnight to Grandma," she said with a soft smile. Tommy ran to me and climbed into my lap. even though he was really getting too big for it. He smelled like children's bubble bath and toothpaste. "Grandma," he said, his voice drowsy, "do you think Grandpa Robert will come visit me again?" I looked at David, then back at Tommy. "I don't know, sweetheart, but I think he's always watching over you, whether we can see him or not." "That's okay," Tommy said with the simple acceptance of childhood. "I like talking to him on the plane, but I like it better here, with you and Daddy and Mommy. It's warmer here." Grandpa Robert seemed kind of cold on the plane. The hair on my arms stood up. "Cold? What do you mean?" Tommy yawned. "Just cold, like he was standing in the wind. But he smiled a lot, so I think he was happy anyway." Tommy fell asleep in my arms a few minutes later. David carried him upstairs to the guest bedroom, and Jennifer followed to tuck him in. I sat alone in the living room, Robert's letters spread out on the coffee table in front of me. 17 envelopes, 17 moments he'd tried to prepare us for. 17 ways he'd tried to love us from beyond the grave. I picked up the envelope labeled, "To Sarah, open when you're ready to love again," and held it for a long moment. I wasn't ready to open it. Maybe I never would be. But knowing it was there, knowing Robert had thought about my future happiness, even in the face of his own mortality, that meant something. That meant everything. Outside, the autumn wind picked up, rattling the windows, and just for a moment I could have sworn I heard it. A sound like humming, like someone singing an old familiar tune. Like Robert, welcoming me home. 3 months passed. Autumn turned to winter, and the first snow fell on Salem in early December. Life moved forward the way it always does, carrying us along whether we were ready or not. But something had changed in those 3 months. Something fundamental had shifted in our family. David wore his father's watch on every flight. He called me more often, not the dutiful weekly check-ins, but real conversations. He told me stories about Tommy, about funny things passengers said, about the sunrise he saw over the Rocky Mountains that reminded him of a painting his father once loved. Jennifer started bringing Tommy to visit every other weekend. We'd bake cookies together, the 3 of us, and I'd tell Tommy stories about his grandfather. Not sanitized stories, but real ones. The time Robert forgot our anniversary and felt so guilty he cooked dinner for a week straight and burned something every single night. The time he tried to fix the washing machine and flooded the basement. The time he cried watching Tommy's ultrasound video, even though it was just grainy black and white images that barely looked like a baby. Tommy absorbed these stories like a sponge, and sometimes he'd add his own details, things he said Grandpa Robert had told him on the plane. At first, David and Jennifer worried about encouraging what might be false memories or imagination. But I noticed something. Tommy's details were always right. He'd mentioned that Grandpa Robert loved black coffee with no sugars, true, or that he used to whistle the same 3 songs on repeat, true, and Tommy whistled one of them perfectly, a tune I hadn't heard in years. We didn't talk about it directly, but we all felt it. Robert was still with us somehow, not in a way that scared us, but in a way that brought comfort, peace. I'd opened 2 more of Robert's letters, one on my 62nd birthday 6 months late, but it felt like the right time. In it, he'd written about all the adventures he hoped I'd have, trips I'd take, hobbies I'd pursue, ways I'd spend my retirement. He'd given me permission to live fully, even without him. The other letter I'd opened was the one labeled, "To Sarah, open on our 50th anniversary." That would have been July 15, 23, 7 years away. But I'd opened it early, on a particularly hard night when the loneliness felt crushing. In it, Robert had written to Sarah, "If we made it to 50 years, I'm the luckiest man who ever lived. If we didn't, then please know that every year we had was worth 100 ordinary lifetimes. You made me believe in magic. You made me believe in forever. And whether I'm with you in body or just in spirit, I'm still yours. I'll always be yours." Now it was December 20th, and we were all gathered at my house again, David, Jennifer, Tommy, and me. It had been Tommy's idea to open the Christmas letter together, the one Robert had labeled, "To the whole family, open on Christmas." But we were opening it 5 days early because David had to fly on Christmas Eve and wouldn't be back until the 26th. Jennifer had suggested we celebrate early, make it special, honor Robert's memory while creating new traditions of our own. We'd put up the Christmas tree that afternoon. Tommy insisted on hanging every ornament himself, even the ones on the high branches. David lifted him up. The house smelled like pine and cinnamon cookies. Frank Sinatra crooned Christmas songs from the old radio in the kitchen. It felt like Robert was there, not in a ghostly way, but in the way that people we love are always present in the traditions they gave us, the joy they taught us to find, the memories that refuse to fade. Now we sat in the living room, the tree lights twinkling, mugs of hot chocolate in hand. Tommy had a candy cane which he was more licking than eating. The blue box sat on the coffee table, and I held the Christmas letter with slightly trembling hands. "Are we ready?" I asked. Tommy nodded enthusiastically. David took Jennifer's hand and squeezed. "Ready, Mom?" I opened the envelope carefully. Inside were several pages and something else, something that fell into my lap as I unfolded the letter. It was a photograph I'd never seen before. It showed Robert sitting in what looked like a hospital waiting room. He was holding a sign that said, "Viewer Grand PA," and grinning at the camera like a kid on Christmas morning. The photo was dated March 2019, the day David and Jennifer had told us about the pregnancy. The day Robert had written the first letters in the blue box. "Where did this come from?" David asked, leaning forward. "I don't remember taking this picture." "You didn't," Jennifer said slowly. "I did. I snapped it while we were waiting to go back for the first ultrasound appointment. Robert wanted a picture to remember the day. But I thought I deleted it. My phone crashed a few weeks later and I lost everything." We stared at the photograph. Robert looked so happy, so healthy, so alive. It was impossible to believe that 3 months after this photo was taken, he'd be gone. I set the photo aside carefully and began reading the letter aloud. "Hence to my whole family, open on Christmas. My dearest Sarah, David, Jennifer, and whoever else might be reading this, it's Christmas. I don't know which Christmas. Maybe the first one after I'm gone, maybe the 10th, maybe the 30th. But whenever it is, you're together. You've opened this letter as a family, and that makes me happier than you can possibly imagine. Christmas was always my favorite time of year. Not because of presents or decorations or even the food, though Sarah, your Christmas roast was always perfection. It was my favorite because it was when our family felt most complete, most present, most ourselves. I'm writing this in March, but I'm already imagining Christmas. The smell of pine, the chaos of wrapping paper everywhere, Tommy, or maybe by now, other grandchildren, running around excited about Santa. David pretending to be too grown, up for the magic while secretly loving every minute. Jennifer making sure everyone eats enough. Sarah humming Christmas carols while she cooks. I'm gonna miss so many Christmases. That's the thought that breaks my heart the most. Not my own death, I've made peace with that. But missing all these moments with you. All these celebrations, all this joy. So here's what I want to ask of you, don't let my absence ruin Christmas. Please, I know it's hard. I know there's an empty chair at the table, an unopened stocking, a person-sized hole in all your traditions. But don't let grief steal your joy. Don't let my death mean the death of celebration. Instead, do this: make Christmas bigger, brighter, fuller. Invite people who have nowhere else to go. Tell embarrassing stories about me, God knows there are plenty. Laugh until you cry, eat too much, stay up too late. Let the kids or grandkids open one present on Christmas Eve even though the rules say they should wait. Live so fully that even death can't diminish it. Here are some specific requests I have for Christmas. Whenever you're reading this as David, I want you to make my terrible eggnog recipe. The one with way too much nutmeg that everyone pretends to like. Make it every year. Add rum if you want to improve it, I know I should have. Call it Dad's Nog and tell everyone it's a family tradition. Because now it is. Saros, I want you to sing. Really sing, the way you used to when we were first married. Not just humming in the background, but full voice. Christmas carols, show tunes, whatever makes you happy. Your voice was always the most beautiful sound in the world to me. Don't let it fall silent just because I'm not there to hear it. Jennifer, thank you for loving my son. Thank you for giving me a grandchild. Thank you for being patient with our family's weird traditions and David's workaholic tendencies and my terrible jokes. You're the daughter I never had, and I'm so grateful you're part of this family. Tommy's and any other grandchildren who might exist, keep the magic alive. Believe in Santa as long as you can. Stay up listening for reindeer on the roof. Leave cookies out even when you're too old for it. And when you have kids of your own someday, tell them about me. Tell them about the grandpa they never met who loved them before they were born. Now here's the most important thing I want to say: I'm not really gone. I know that sounds crazy. I know you're probably rolling your eyes, thinking I've gotten sentimental in my old age. But hear me out. I'm in every Christmas cookie recipe that gets passed down. I'm in every story you tell. I'm in David's smile and Tommy's laugh, and the way Sarah still sets the table exactly the way I liked it, even though she used to complain I was too fussy. I'm in the ornaments we collected over 30 years of marriage. I'm in the Christmas lights I spent hours untangling every single year says and cursing about. Let's be honest. I'm in the tradition of watching It's a Wonderful Life on Christmas Eve, even though we've seen it 100 times. Death doesn't end presents, it just changes the form. So this Christmas, set a place for me at the table if you want to. Or don't, whatever feels right. But know that I'm there anyway, in the love you share, in the memories you keep, in the way you treat each other with kindness and patience and grace. I'm there in every moment you choose joy over grief, connection over isolation, hope over despair. That's what Christmas is really about, isn't it? Hope in the darkness. Light that refuses to be extinguished. Love that survives everything, even death itself. When I say few practical notes, in the back of the attic there's a box labeled Robert's Christmas Stuff. Inside are Christmas presents I bought for future years. Gifts for David, for Sarah, for Tommy at various ages. I tried to imagine you might need or want. Open one each year if you'd like, or save them, or donate them. Whatever feels right. They're not important. They're just my way of trying to be part of future Christmases. Also in that box, the awful Christmas sweater I wore to the office party in 2015. You know, the one with the light-up reindeer nose that actually blinked. David, I want you to wear it every Christmas. It's hideous, but that's the point. Life's too short to take yourself too seriously. My Christmas wish for you, more than anything, I wish you peace. Not the absence of sadness, that's not realistic. But peace in knowing that our love was real, that our time together mattered, that no amount of death can erase what we built as a family. I wish you laughter. The kind that comes from deep in your belly. The kind that makes you forget to be sad for a little while. I wish you connection. To each other, to the people you love, to the world around you that's full of so much beauty if you take the time to notice. And I wish you Christmas mornings full of joy, Christmas evenings full of contentment, and Christmas nights full of peaceful sleep, knowing your love beyond measure. Thank you for being my family. Thank you for making my life mean something. Thank you for carrying on without me, even when it's hard. Merry Christmas, my loves. Every Christmas, forever, with all my heart, Robert. P.S. Sarah, there's one more present for you specifically. It's wrapped in gold paper and hidden in my workshop in the basement, behind the toolbox on the second shelf. Open it after everyone else goes to bed. It's just for you. P.P.S. If anyone's reading this and thinking, wow, Robert was really sappy, you're absolutely right. Death has made me sentimental. Sue me. By the time I finished reading, we were all crying again. But this time, the tears felt different, lighter, like rain after a long drought, washing away the dust and making room for new growth. Tommy climbed into David's lap and hugged his father tight. Daddy, we should make Grandpa's eggnog, even if it's bad. David laughed through his tears. Yeah, buddy, we absolutely should. Jennifer was looking at the photograph of Robert with his Feu Grandpa sign. He was so excited, she said softly. I forgot how excited he was. We were all so focused on the sadness of him dying before Tommy was born that I forgot about this moment, about how purely happy he was. He was happy, I said, my voice thick. Even knowing he might not meet Tommy, he was happy. That's who Robert was. He chose joy, even when he had every reason to choose despair. David stood up, still holding Tommy. I need to find that box. The one with the Christmas sweater. If Dad wants me to wear a hideous light-up reindeer sweater every year, then that's exactly what I'm going to do. We spent the next hour in the attic, finding the box Robert had mentioned. Inside, just as he'd promised, were wrapped presents. Each one labeled with a name and a year. For David, Christmas 2020. For Sarah, Christmas 2021. For Tommy, Christmas 2024. For Tommy, Christmas 2027. There were at least 20 gifts in total, spanning years into the future. Robert had tried to be present for Christmases he knew he'd miss. And there, at the bottom of the box, was the Christmas sweater. Red and green, with a reindeer whose nose actually did light up when you pressed a button. It was spectacularly ugly. David held it up and grinned. It's perfect. He put it on right there in the attic, and we all laughed. The kind of laughter Robert's letter had wished for us. The kind that comes from deep in your belly and makes you forget to be sad. That night, after David, Jennifer, and Tommy had gone to bed in the guest rooms, I went down to Robert's workshop in the basement. I hadn't been down there since he died. It was still exactly as he'd left it. Tools hanging on pegboards, half-finished projects on the workbench, The smell of sawdust and oil. Behind the toolbox, on the second shelf, I found a package wrapped in gold paper, slightly dusty but otherwise perfect. I sat down on Robert's old work stool and carefully unwrapped it. Inside was a wooden music box. Robert had made it himself. I could tell from his careful joinery, from the way it was sanded smooth and finished with care. On the lid was a simple engraving, "For my songbird." With trembling hands I opened it. The mechanism clicked to life, and a familiar melody began to play. The song Robert used to sing to me. The song he'd hum while he shaved in the morning. The song that had been ours, since the night we met. And inside the box, on a small piece of paper, was one final note: "Sarah, keep singing. Even when I'm not there to listen. Especially when I'm not there to listen. Your voice is proof that beauty exists. That love survives. That life goes on. I'll be listening from wherever I am, I promise. Forever yours, Robert." I sat in that basement workshop, holding the music box Robert had made with his own hands, listening to our song play, and I sang. For the first time in 5 years, I really sang. Full voice, the way Robert's letter had asked me to, the way I used to before grief stole my joy. And I could have sworn, though I told myself it was just the acoustics of the basement, just the echo of my own voice. I could have sworn I heard someone singing harmony. A familiar voice, warm and loving, joining in. Robert's voice, saying goodbye and hello at the same time. Christmas came and went. We followed Robert's letter to the word. David wore the hideous reindeer sweater. I sang carols while cooking. We made the terrible eggnogs, which was, as suspected, nearly undrinkable but became funny instead of sad. Tommy opened his present from the box. A wooden toy airplane Robert had carved himself, with "Tommy's First Flight" painted on the side. It was a good Christmas. Not a perfect one. There was still an empty chair. Still moments when grief caught us off guard. But it was good. It was full of life and love, and the kind of joy that honors the dead instead of forgetting them. But now it was December 30th, and David had to fly back to Seattle. His 3-day rotation started tomorrow. Seattle to Boston to Chicago to Seattle. The same route he'd been flying for 5 years. The route where seat 12F was always mysteriously reserved. This time, though, something was different. This time David wasn't just going through the motions, controlling his grief behind a pilot's professional calm. This time, he was ready to face what had been waiting for him all along. I drove him to Logan Airport early in the morning. Jennifer and Tommy had already gone back to their house in Brookline. Tommy had school starting again after New Year's, and Jennifer had to work. It was just David and me, driving through the pre-dawn darkness, not saying much but not needing to. Robert's watch was on David's wrist. I could see it every time he shifted gears, the luminous dial glowing faintly in the dark. "Are you nervous?" I asked as we merged onto the highway. David thought about it. Not nervous exactly, more like expectant. Like I'm about to have a conversation I should have had 5 years ago. "With your father?" "Yeah." "Or with whatever part of him is still here. Still watching." He glanced at me. "Do you think I'm crazy, Mom? Do you think this is all just grief making us see patterns where there aren't any?" I'd asked myself the same question 100 times over the past 3 months. The rational part of my brain said yes. It was coincidence, imagination, our desperate need to believe that death wasn't the end. But the part of me that had lived with Robert for 30 years, that had loved him and been loved by him, that part knew better. "I think love is stronger than we understand," I said finally. "I think the connection between people who truly love each other doesn't just disappear because one of them dies." "Does that mean your father's ghost is literally sitting in seat 12F on every flight?" "I don't know. But does it mean some part of him is still present, still watching over you?" "Yes, I believe that." David nodded slowly. He was quiet for the rest of the drive. At the airport, I parked in the short-term lot and walked him to security. We stood there awkwardly for a moment, my tall, capable son who flew massive aircraft across the country, but who still looked like my little boy in the harsh fluorescent lights of the terminal. "Mom," he said suddenly, "thank you for keeping Dad's memory alive, for not letting me shut down completely, for being strong enough for both of us." "I wasn't strong," I said. "I was barely surviving. We both were, but we did survive. And now we're doing more than that. We're actually living again." He pulled me into a tight hug. "Dad's letters did that. Tommy's experience did that. You did that. Your father did that," I corrected. "He loved us enough to reach across death itself and remind us how to be a family." David pulled back and wiped his eyes. "I need to go through security. But Mom, I'll call you after the flight. I'll tell you. Whatever happens, whatever I see or don't see in seat 112F, I'll be waiting. I watched him go through security, watched him collect his bag and shoes on the other side, watched him walk toward the gates without looking back. My pilot son, carrying his father's watch and his father's love into the sky. 2-3 hours later, I was back home in Salem when my phone rang. Mum, David's voice was strange, quiet.
Awa, did you see him?
I asked, my heart pounding. No, not exactly. But Mom, something happened. Something impossible. Tell me. David took a deep breath. I did my pre-flight checks like always. Walked through the cabin, greeted the passengers, made sure everything was secure. When I got to row 12, seat F was empty. Just like it always is on the manifest. Just like it's been for 5 years. But Mom, there was something on the seat. An envelope, addressed to me. In Dad's handwriting. The room spun. That's impossible. I know. I checked with the flight attendants. Nobody had been in that seat. Nobody had left anything there. We hadn't even finished boarding yet. The envelope was just there. Like it materialized out of thin air. What did it say? Did you open it? I couldn't open it on the plane. I was about to start takeoff procedures. So I put it in my flight bag and finished the flight. I'm in the crew lounge now, Mom. I've been staring at this envelope for 20 minutes, too scared to open it. Do you want me to stay on the phone while you read it? Yeah, I do. I heard rustling, the sound of paper tearing, a long pause. David, what does it say? When David spoke again, his voice was shaking. It says, oh God, Mom. It says, Dear David, if you're reading this, it means I finally figured out how to leave you one last message. I've been trying for 5 years, but it turns out communication from the other side is harder than you'd think. Who knew? I'm so proud of you, son. I'm proud of the pilot you've become, the father you are, the man you grew into. I've been here for every flight, watching over you from seat 12F. I can't fly the plane for you, but I can make sure you're not alone up here in the sky. By now you've found the blue box. You've read the letters. You've seen how much I tried to stay connected, even after death. I hope they helped. I hope they gave you some peace. But this is the last one, son. The last message I can send. The energy it takes to reach across from where I am to where you are, it's not infinite. And honestly, I don't think you need me anymore. Not the way you did. You've grieved. You've healed. You've learned how to carry your love for me without letting it crush you. You've learned how to be present for Tommy and Jennifer and your mother while still honoring my memory. You've figured out how to fly and how to land, how to rise and how to come home. That's all I ever wanted for you. So this is goodbye, David. Real goodbye this time. I won't be in seat 1F anymore. The reservation will disappear. It's time for me to let go, and time for you to fly without me watching over your shoulder. But know this, I'm still proud. I'm still loving you from wherever I am. And someday, when your own flight ends and you land on this side of death, I'll be waiting. First thing I'm going to do is hug you. Second thing is demand to meet all my future grandchildren. Third thing is probably complain about how you never fixed that terrible eggnog recipe. Fly safe, son. Love deeply. Live fully. And don't you dare cry over this letter while you're in uniform. You're a professional. Your father, always and forever, Robert. P.S. Tell your mother I said she's still the most beautiful woman in any world, living or dead. Tell her to open the letter marked, when you're ready to love again. Tell her I mean it. She should be happy. She should find someone to dance with, to laugh with, to grow old with. It won't be betraying me. It'll be honoring everything we had by refusing to let love die just because I did. P.P.S. Tommy's gonna be okay. I met him because I needed to make sure he knew where he came from, who loved him before he was born. He's a special kid, David. He's going to do remarkable things. Be patient with him. Listen to him. And for God's sake, teach him to fly before he's too old to think it's magic. David stopped reading. I could hear him crying, trying to control it and failing. Mom, are you there? I whispered, my own tears streaming down my face. I'm here, sweetheart. He's really gone now, isn't he? Not just dead, but gone. No more signs. No more seat 112F. No more mysterious appearances. I think so. I think he said what he needed to say. He gave us what we needed to heal. And now he's letting go so we can keep living. I don't know if I'm ready. You are, I said firmly. We both are. Your father made sure of it. All those letters, all those messages, they weren't just about saying goodbye. They were about teaching us how to live without him, how to carry him forward while still moving forward ourselves. David was quiet for a long moment. Then, I need to check something. I'm pulling up the flight manifest for my next rotation. More silence. Then a sharp intake of breath. What is it? I asked. Sate 12F. It's available for booking now. The standing reservation is gone. Mom, it's like it was never there. Like it was only held for as long as Dad needed it to be. We sat with that for a moment, the finality of it, the grief and relief mixed together. I should go, David said finally. I need to pull myself together before the next flight, but Mom, thank you. For everything. For being strong enough to survive losing him. For helping me learn how to grieve. For keeping our family together when it would have been so easy to fall apart. We kept each other together, I said. That's what families do. After we hung up, I sat in my living room for a long time, thinking about Robert. About the man who'd loved me for 30 years, who'd made me breakfast every Sunday, who'd built me a music box with his own hands and left me letters to open long after he was gone. I thought about the impossible things that had happened over the past 3 months. Tommy's encounter on the plane, the blue box in the attic, the letters that spoke directly to the moments we needed them most, the photograph that shouldn't have existed, the watch that fit David perfectly, the envelope that appeared in seat 12 with no explanation. Were they miracles? Were they grief-induced coincidences that we'd stitched together into a narrative of continued presence? I didn't know. I'd probably never know. But I knew this Robert had kept his promise. He'd found a way to let us know he was still there, still watching, still loving us. And now he'd found a way to say goodbye, to release us from the prison of endless grief. I walked to my bedroom and opened the drawer where I'd put the remaining letters from the blue box. There, near the bottom, was the one I'd been avoiding. To Sarah, open when you're ready to love again. I wasn't ready. Not yet. Maybe not for a long time. But I pulled the envelope out and held it. Knowing it was there, knowing Robert had given me permission, had actively encouraged me to find happiness again, that meant something. It meant he'd loved me enough to want my joy even if it came with someone else. It meant he'd understood that love doesn't divide, it multiplies. It meant he'd trusted me to honor our past while building a future. I put the letter on my nightstand where I could see it. A promise for someday. A permission I wasn't quite ready to accept but was no longer afraid to consider. That night I played the music box Robert had made. I sang along with the familiar melody. Our song, the one from our first dance, the one he'd hummed while shaving every morning of our marriage. And this time, I didn't hear his voice singing harmony. There was no ghostly presence, no supernatural sign. There was just me, singing alone but not lonely, carrying Robert forward in my voice and my memories and my continued capacity for joy. 6 months later, on what would have been Robert's 61st birthday, David took Tommy on his first flight as a passenger in the cockpit. Tommy sat in the jump seat, wearing a too large pilot's cap, absolutely thrilled to see his father at work. They flew from Boston to Seattle, and David let Tommy help with the pre-flight checklist, the easy parts at least. When they walked through the cabin before takeoff, Tommy stopped at row 12. Daddy, he said, pointing at seat 112, can I sit here? Just for a minute. David looked at the empty seat. Really looked at it for the first time since that last letter. It was just a seat now. No reservation. No mysterious presence. Just blue upholstery and a tray table and a window showing the tarmac below. Sure, buddy. For a minute. Tommy climbed into seat 12F and looked out the window. He was quiet for a long moment. Then he smiled. What are you thinking about? David asked. Grandpa Robert, Tommy said simply. I was remembering what he told me, about flying being like magic, about how when you're up in the sky, you can see how beautiful everything is. He was right about that, Daddy. Tommy looked up with those serious dark eyes. Do you think Grandpa is still watching us? David thought about the letters in the blue box, about the watch on his wrist, about the impossible things that had brought their family back together, about his father's last message telling him it was okay to fly without a guardian angel in seat 12F. I think, David said carefully, that Grandpa loved us so much that part of him will always be with us. Not necessarily watching every single moment, but living on in the stories we tell and the way we love each other and the things he taught us about being good people. Tommy nodded, satisfied with this answer. That makes sense. Because I can't see him anymore, but I can still feel him sometimes, like he's in my heart instead of in the seat next to me. Yeah, David said, his voice thick. That's exactly where he is. They flew to Seattle that day, father and son together, carrying Robert forward in their shared love of flying, in Tommy's curiosity and David's skill, in the way they looked out at the clouds and saw dragons and ships and infinite possibilities. Seat 112 stayed empty. But it wasn't a sad kind of empty. It was the kind of empty that leaves room for new passengers, new stories, new journeys. As for me, I kept living. I tended my garden. I sang while I cooked. I opened one of Robert's letters every few months when the time felt right. I spent weekends with Tommy, filling his head with stories about his grandfather while also making new memories that were just ours. And one day, not yet, but someday, I'd open that final letter. The one about being ready to love again. When that day came, I'd read Robert's words giving me permission to move forward, to find happiness, to choose life over endless mourning. But for now, I was content with my memories and my family and my music box that played our song. Content with the impossible miracle of a 7-year-old boy who talked to his dead grandfather on a plane and led us all to the healing we desperately needed. Content with the mystery of it all, because some things don't need explanation. Some things just need to be accepted with gratitude and wonder. Love was like that. It didn't follow the rules. It didn't respect the boundaries between life and death, between possible and impossible, between past and present and future. Love just was. Love persisted. Love found a way. And in the end, that was all that mattered. 5 years later, Tommy turned 12. He'd grown tall and lanky, all arms and legs and boundless energy. He still talked about his grandfather sometimes, though the memory of their conversation on the plane had softened into something dreamlike, more feeling than specific detail. David had taught him to fly, not actually piloting yet, but understanding the principles, spending time in flight simulators, learning to read the sky and weather patterns. Tommy was fascinated by it all, just like his grandfather had been. On Tommy's 12th birthday, I gave him the letter Robert had written to my grandchild when they turned 12. Robert had misjudged slightly. The letter was actually labeled for age 10, but I'd waited for the right moment. Tommy read it alone in my garden, sitting on the bench Robert had built 20 years ago. When he came back inside, his eyes were red but he was smiling. "What did it say?" I asked. "It said I should be brave. It said I should try things even when they scare me. It said Grandpa was proud of me even though he never met me." Tommy paused. "And it said that when I'm older, when I'm ready, I should ask Dad about seat 12F. He said there's a story there that I'd understand better when I'm grown up." I hugged my grandson tight. "Your grandfather was very wise." "Grandma, do you still miss him?" "Every day," I said honestly. "But it doesn't hurt the same way it used to. Now it's more like he's part of me, part of all of us. We carry him forward, and that makes the missing easier to bear." Tommy nodded against my shoulder. Then, in a voice so like Robert's it made my heart ache, "I think I understand." And perhaps he did. Perhaps even at 12, Tommy understood what it had taken me years to learn, that love doesn't end with death. It transforms. It adapts. It finds new ways to exist. It leaves letters in blue boxes and reserves seats on airplanes and speaks through the voices of children who never met the people they're channeling. It persists. It endures. It wins.